Okay, so the next question was, what is consciousness, awareness, or attention? So maybe you've heard me say this before if you've been with me in other groups or meditations. The metaphor is consciousness is light, universal light, okay? That's why we call it enlightenment, that you are full of light. So if consciousness is light, the light exists in different measurements, forms. So consciousness is, or full enlightenment is, we are like the sun. We are a source of universal light, and it's radiating everywhere. That's how it's like to be sitting with an enlightened master, and I know it myself. Really sitting with Osho for 10 years, it was like really sitting, sunbathing in his aura, his golden aura for 10 years. It was amazing. But awareness is like a lighthouse, the beam, like a focus, a laser beam. You can focus light into a narrow laser beam. Like, okay, that's when we use the phrase meditate on something. You have a thing that you must meditate on. So it's a tradition in Chan, in Zen, like the koan, gong-an, like, or, with Osho we also use the question, who am I, or who is in? Disciples of Advaita, Neo-Advaita may meditate on the question, who am I? Who is it that dies? Who am I? Is it that is alive? Who is it that dies? So there are many questions. The basic question is, who? Could also focus on what. That's a bit more superficial. But who is more essential? It takes you more inside yourself. So the who, or like who am I, is focusing on this question. It's like you're narrowing your full consciousness into one area. It's like you turn on a torchlight. So let's say in a metaphor, we all know what it's like to be in the night time. You're on the street, it's dark, and you have to turn on your torch. Maybe on your smartphone these days. You switch on the torch, and it shines a narrow beam of light so you can see where you're going. So that's how it also is in meditation with a koan, a gong-an. Now, because to exist in consciousness is so diffuse, it's so everywhere. How can I expand into everywhere at once? It's not so easy. So it's a famous meditation method to focus on one thing at one time. That is putting your full attention into one direction. It could be the question, who am I? It could be any question. Who is in was Osho's addition. It means, basically means, who is this consciousness? Not just who am I, which could be like, we can get stuck in the layer of personality. But it's just English grammar, it's just grammatics. The main question is to try to focus on who, or what is the experience of being alive? What is consciousness? Right? But when we say, if we ask the question, what is consciousness? It sounds a bit like an intellectual game. That's why the question like who is so easy. Just who is, who is. So that gives a focus, and that is awareness. But it's a temporary state of constricted attention, constricted consciousness. If our consciousness is like the light, then we narrow it to focus like a torch beam or a laser beam on one direction, one question. But it can help us penetrate to the center of our being. But once we're in the center of the being, then the experience is expansion again. So it's a bit like we use a laser beam to look at the sun, but when the laser beam, let's say for example, little bit sci-fi metaphor, I can use my laser beam torch to shine towards the sun. But I am traveling on that laser beam towards the sun, and then I am the sun. So awareness helps us to get to achieve the state of consciousness. But this state of consciousness is universal and expanded. So methods of meditation, methods of awareness are very helpful, but they are not the end. We need expansion, and expansion is another name of universal love. Because when you're fully expanded, you include everything. Which is why I always say that consciousness is formed of awareness plus love. But love, not I love you, you love me, but love is unconditional universal love. It's a complete yes to existence. It's relaxation. So we need the focus of awareness plus the relaxation of love, and together, then we achieve the ultimate, which is consciousness.